Patricia Gras. Welcome to Passion Time. I'm here with Katya Dow. She's an adjunct professor at U of H Law Center, but most importantly, she's the director of JCAP. JCAP stands for Juvenile and Capital Advocacy Project, a very important project right now helping young people who've committed crimes. But first, before we start, as always, we're going to ask Katya, how did you find your passion and how are you living your passion?
Well, I think I found my passion as I was practicing law in the business civil litigation world, which is what I have done for the past 20 years or so.
Wow.
That's what I was originally that's how I began practicing law, and wasn't really inspired by it. But at some point along the way, I began volunteering as a child advocate for this organization called Child Advocates.
They're wonderful, yes.
Yes. And what they do is they train you, and you don't have to be a lawyer to do this, they just train anybody who is willing to be a volunteer how to become a guardian ad litem, which means that you represent the best interests of children who are in CPS custody because they've been removed from the home for abuse or neglect. And this is an amazing program because those kids really, I mean, everybody knows that CPS or DFPS, which is what it's called now, those caseworkers are just so overwhelmed with the number of cases they have. They just don't have the time to really be able to monitor all of the children that are, under their watch.
System,
So the people that are doing volunteer work for child advocates actually only get 1 or 2 cases at the most at a time, so they can really investigate those cases and make sure that those children are being taken care of and really see what all the avenues of what could help this child that they're involved with. So I did that for about 10 years, and I really saw that there are a lot of problems with kids in Harris County and in Texas generally, and probably nationally, where we have too many children there in our system that just don't get a fair shake. They start off with hard lives to begin with, maybe with families that can't take care of them or won't take care of them.
Right.
And
Runaways or homelessness or abuse or neglect.
Exactly. And so that's how I became interested in juvenile issues.
Okay.
And so then about 2 years ago, we decided to start this program at the University of Houston. It was an offshoot of our death penalty clinic that we have there, as well as an innocence clinic that we run. So we just could start addressing juvenile issues and see how we could make a difference as attorneys and law professors to train law students to enter this field and learn more about it and what it means to represent children who are either in the CPS system or in the juvenile system and how to help them best.
Right.
Yeah.
Now tell me a little bit about, because you also now teach a course.
Yes.
And it's called?
It's called Juvenile Record Sealing.
Right. Tell me about that, because the key, you're saying, these kids make mistakes, they commit a crime, they're dumb, their brains aren't developed, and then they pay for it for the rest of their lives. So tell me about your course.
Yes. Okay, so this course, it was sort of born out of, we got a small grant with a nonprofit organization called Change Happens. And because juvenile record sealing is such an issue nationwide now, there are federal grants that are going out that are looking for people to do this kind of work. And that's how we became involved in it. And so what I thought we could do is teach the law students how to seal juvenile records while also being able to do them for free for people who need it. And before I started, I didn't realize what a huge issue and what a huge problem it is, but essentially what happens is that a youth will go through the system, they'll do something and commit, they'll commit a crime, but in the juvenile world it's called just an offense. You don't say that they've actually committed a crime, they've just been delinquent and committed an offense. And it can be anything from graffiti to possession of marijuana, small amount, to theft of something small, to actual assault or something like that. But generally that's also just fighting with somebody that falls into that category. And one of my favorite stories is that things like pulling a fire alarm, that will end up being a felony offense because that's what it is under the law. And that child who does something crazy and just is maybe on a dare, pulls a fire alarm, he gets this charge of a felony pulling a fire alarm, and usually that won't be a conviction, that'll just be a deferred adjudication. So they don't have to do anything really. They maybe go to a class or something like that on safety or whatever, and then they finish and they're told, oh, well, now this is done.
You're done.
Don't worry about it. It's your juvenile record is, and then sometimes they're even told this is going to go away automatically. And the problem is that it doesn't.
It isn't. Oh,
yeah.
It does not.
Yeah. So you have these people out there, kids and even adults. I have a lot of adults that come in when they see that their juvenile record has come up, where they've been, productive citizens for years and years and years, and all of a sudden, because of the digital age now, these records are becoming more and more ubiquitous. Their employer, especially if they work for police department or something like that, or for Metro, say, that will pop up and they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't work here anymore because you have this record. And so therefore, that's what we do now. We have the law students actually seal these records. And it's actually a pretty difficult process. It's not something that people can really do on their own. So it's really important that there are organizations like ours and attorneys who can do this for, pro bono for people, so that they can actually have this done and move on with their lives, because they really are productive members of society.
Is this the only program in the United States?
I don't know.
I've never heard of it.
Well, yes, and that's the thing, is we're trying to get the word out. And we are actually partners with the HBA, the Houston Bar Association.
Okay.
They actually train lawyers to do this work, but they only take deferred prosecutions and I think Class C misdemeanors. Okay. So we take everything. We'll take any case that's eligible to be sealed.
How huge is the problem? Because you're doing it pro bono, you have some students, but I'm sure there are way more cases than what you can tackle.
Yes, we are, and ever since we've started, our docket has grown exponentially. So we are getting more and more work, the more that this is getting out, and now that people have heard about us, and the more people that have problems and realize, oh my gosh, this is really affecting my life, we're getting tons of cases coming in.
And you don't have enough lawyers doing the cases?
Yes, we can always use more. So, I only have so many law students that can handle cases throughout the semester. To assign cases to. So if we had more attorneys who would be willing to take cases like this to do it on a pro bono basis, that would be wonderful.
And this is done by attorneys only? A regular person without a law degree can't do this?
No, it would be very difficult to do that. The steps to do this is you have to draft up an application and an order for sealing. And that requires an affidavit that is signed by the juvenile who wants to have their record sealed. And then once you've got that all drafted, you have to set that for hearing with the court, and then you have to send out notice of that hearing with a copy of that application to all of the agencies that might have these records. And then you have the hearing, and depending on what kind of hearing it is, what kind of case it is, whether it's a discretionary case or whether it's a mandatory case, you will have to argue whether this case is eligible to be sealed, because some of them are discretionary.
Yeah, it's a very complex process.
It's pretty complex. And then once you do get a signed order from the judge, then once again you have to send that order out to all of the agencies that have these records, and then they are required by law to expunge all of their records.
Are you looking at long-term, for example, solutions like maybe changing the laws?
Yes, we are working with, there's an organization called the Juvenile Records Action Committee who is trying to address some of these issues in the next legislature to really try and...
And it's got to be done at the state level, not at the national level?
Yes, because unfortunately, every state has different laws with regard to sealing records, and they're pretty different actually from one state to another. Yeah.
And Texas is always, it is what it is.
That's right, that's right. And I have to say, we have actually better juvenile record laws than some other states. So
great.
yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
good. And then I wanted to ask you before we end this interview, the mentorship program is also part of this. And
Yes.
I find that very interesting, because you're tackling this problem not only just the legal way, but also the social, emotional.
Yes. Our other program is a mentorship program. We have two other legal programs, but those are still in development. But we have a mentorship program, which I do not run, but one of my colleagues does. And essentially what we do is we pair 8th graders, so middle schoolers, where we're hoping to make the most difference. with people in the community, generally lawyers and law professors and law students, because that's what we have access to, but really anybody who's interested in doing so.
Okay.
We pair them with 8th graders at a school called the Lawson Academy.
Okay.
So each 8th grader gets a mentor, and each mentor would meet with they're required to commit to an entire year with their mentee. And they meet once a week with them during their lunch hour and just discuss anything that might be going on in that child's life. Also, helping them with, schoolwork and what they're thinking about where they want to go to high school,
right.
Giving them options and choices and bouncing ideas off, that kind of thing.
Are you tracking how these kids will do eventually?
Well, we haven't really, we get feedback from their teachers and parents and things like that. And from they themselves, they tell us how they like, having a mentor and what it meant to them. But we have not had a chance, since it's so new, we haven't had a chance to do any long-term studies yet, but we plan to.
All right, well, Katya Dow, thank you so much for the work that you do and for being here on Passion Time. And how can people reach you if they're interested in helping out, if they're a lawyer watching this, or just a regular person who wants to help mentor children? How do they reach you? 2 ways.
You can go to our website, which is www.jcaptexas, spelled out, .org. Or you can also call our central number, which is really my office number. So it's 713-743-1011. And we'd be more than happy to get any kind of interest or help.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you very much. It was very happy to be here.
And we'll see you next time on Passion Time.
Cambia tu vida. Cambia tu vida. Cambia tu vida. Yo sé que tú puedes, que tú eres capaz. Cambia tu vida. La vida es una y tú vas a triunfar. Cambia tu vida. Con fe y esperanza las puertas se abrirán. Cambia tu vida. Tu destino tú lo manejas y mucho más. Cambia tu vida. Toma el toro por los cuernos y dale nomás. Cambia tu vida. Todo es posible, no te rindas jamás. Cambia tu vida. Yo estoy contigo, contigo hasta el final. Cambia tu vida. A gozar. Cambia tu vida. Cambia tu vida.